morning, everyone. Hold on, give me a second here. I have this. There's the date. There's the time. And there's the thing. Hey, good morning. I'm Rabbi Brian. Glad that you are here. I have a whole bunch of friends who are still logging on, who are joining me. This is the Saturday service. It's a different way of doing a religious service. We don't have responsive readings. We don't have a choir.
Band.
But we are a band. We decided that we are. There was a great quote from Voltaire that said, "Life is a shipwreck. We mustn't forget to sing in the lifeboats." And I ran with that metaphor. I said, we are all in a band. We are all in a proverbial lifeboats, and we're here to be of courage and support to each other. So let me change the screen so you can see all the people who are here. There you go. People who are still joining in. Wave, say hi. Good morning, everyone who's live. And good morning to those of you who are joining on Facebook, who are joining on... let me open up the comments window. If you're joining on Facebook or joining on YouTube, feel free to leave something in the chat. If you're in the regular chat, as you know, I don't check that during the service because it's too much going on for me to be able to read that, but I do read the comments afterwards. There are a number of people who are designated as co-hosts of this meeting. If you have any technical questions or difficulties, please feel free to reach out to any of them. And there we go. Thank you. Glad to see you guys. Good morning. I said good morning to a bunch of people already, but I think I left off with good morning, Chad, Lisa, and Carolyn, and Ray, and Ellis, and Steve, and Ann, and Michael, and Melissa, and Bruce, and Roberta, and Al, and Afia, and Betsy. And good morning to everyone who I got to greet personally before we started. So welcome, welcome. Glad you guys are all here. I want to start with a little bit of review from last week. Here was, oh no, hold on. Here's what we said last week was, other people's errors are not a license for you to berate them. Neither are your errors reason for you to overly berate yourself. Be kind. Errors happen. I'm going to say that one again. Last week we said other people's errors are not a license for you to berate them. Neither are your errors reason to overly berate yourself. Be kind. Errors happen. Let me... And I have... Go back to the camera on me. Hi, this is me. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Okay, now it's just me and you guys. We have a lot to talk about today, and we'll find out exactly what we will be talking about. But we talked some about errors happening, and there was a... let me see if I can pull this back together. That when an error happens, this was the crux of where we left off and where I want us to start up today. Something happens and it's wrong. It's not the way we thought it should be. We respond. And it's much like if somebody throws a ball at you, it's just instinctual to catch the ball or to move your head to get out of the way. It's instinctual. And the question that I have is, when an error happens, must we berate the other person? When an error happens, must we put ourselves down? And the hypothesis is no.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Are you having fun in there?
I'd love to. Let's mute. Thank you, whoever muted Meg on my behalf. Thank you, Alex, for doing that. So an error happened. Thank you, Meg, for making that absolutely perfectly happening on cue as we rehearsed. A thing happened, And I bet you all had a reaction to it much like I did. A thing happened, and we had a reaction to it. And the question is, much like a train leaving the station is headed in one certain direction, can't the train change tracks? And I'm going to bring these guys back in.
I think it depends on who's pulling the switch.
Exactly. And let me introduce my two little friends here. Thank you, Jack. And this is what we're going to be talking about. This guy here is named Discernment. Oh, and hello to Ginny, who's on Facebook, who just threw up a hello. This one's Discernment. So discernment means it's something we noticed. We discerned that Meg's window was open and she was talking to someone on the drive-thru. And thank you, Meg, for doing that, because we all noticed it. We discerned a thing. And then we had an opinion about it. And this one has a J on it that stands for judgment. But the idea is that it just goes 1, 2. I'm going to do that again. There's a thing that happens. There's a thing we notice. And then there's a thought that we have about it. And the question is, can we, and this is what Jack was just saying, can we be a good train conductor and change tracks so that when the thing happens, we're not necessarily annoyed or irked by it?
Well, there's actually 3 things happening, aren't there?
I'm glad to hear. Tell me. Michael.
Well, once something happens.
Here's something happened.
Then you discern it.
Okay, a thing happened, you discern it. Correct.
And there may be even 4 for all I know.
What I'm trying. Yes. So let me try to split it into 2 pieces. There are the things that we know we can't control, Meg being one of them. We cannot control Meg, and Meg, I can't see you right now on the camera. There you are. Hi, Meg. I wanted just to track your face, make sure you're still smiling along and that you didn't feel too picked on. Okay. There are the things that we don't control, the things outside of our world, Meg, and then that we notice it. And some of you might not have even noticed that Meg's microphone was hot. But there are the things that we don't control. And then there's our response. And the question is, how close in are those 2 things, and can we separate our response out so that we have, at what point do we get to choose our response? Someone smacks you in the face, you're going to feel that. And you're probably going to have a response. The question is, can you control that response? And I'm going to bring up this quote from, here it is, please hold. Here's the quote from Viktor Frankl, and it was on the pre-service email. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. I'm going to go back to talking about a 14-year-old friend of mine.
Can I say one thing?
Please.
That I think the growth is in the space, not in our response.
Mm-hmm. Correct. The growth is in our being able to make that space.
Mm-hmm.
Our growth is in being able to expound that space. Yeah, go ahead, John.
I see 2 things. A stimulus can generate a reaction.
Correct.
That's an immediate and has very little thought involved. a response, especially when we're doing interpersonal things, that a response supersedes or can supersede a reaction. Okay, a response is,
Right.
let me set the reaction down. I don't want to react. I want to respond instead.
So what we're getting at is there are two separate pieces. Thank you, John. There's the part that's autonomous, that's happening without our control in our thought, and then there's a part that is under our jurisdiction, part that we are governing. And
yes,
the question is where those two things line up next to each other, and how well can we choose which one. I'm going to go to Al and then Ellis, and then I have a different. We're going to look at this from a different way in a moment. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, I was just thinking you were kind of like holding up discernment when you were saying stimulus, and then judgment when you said response.
Okay.
I'm wondering, isn't there really like you can have discernment and immediate judgment, but then you're not necessarily responding with that judgment. You have an opportunity to fix that judgment and reconsider that judgment. I'm not sure that the judgment is really equal to the response in what Frankel is saying.
Yes, the letters on these guys' chests are not the important thing is that there's the things that we cannot control, and there are the things that we can control. To the best.
I just wondered. Sometimes I can't control my immediate judgment, but I can control whether I reflect on it and change that judgment and reconsider that judgment.
Right. Later in the week, I might be able to go, well, I ought not to have done that. Or later in the week, I say I can be compassionate to myself for what happened. And all week up until now, I was not able to. The names of them aren't the important thing I'm trying to get at, and what I'm trying to move us towards is this idea that we do have control at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, even in the moment. It doesn't have to be a week later.
And it's a thing to work on. It's like a muscle to build up.
Thank you, Rags. Exactly. This is, and the training grounds, Ellis, I apologize, be right with you. The training that we always, that you're going to have the opportunity today to work on this. We all are. We have countless examples in front of us. This is the question is how much do you want to work on it, and how good can you get? Go ahead, Alice. And then,
well, you're just now talking about what I wanted to mention is
say it.
In my quiet time when I'm calm and I'm thinking the way I want to think or way I perceive that I'd like to think, it's easy to have the correct response or lack of response. It's making that figuring out how to make that happen when there's little time to stop yourself.
Absolutely. But just like with the French horn, it's going to take practice and doing it consciously. Oh, I got to put down these two fingers and the thumb valve to hit the A. It's going to take practicing it slowly in the not performance mode to be able to do it well in performance mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. We are going to do something a little bit different. Our friend Melissa. Where's Melissa?
Here.
Oh, hi, Melissa. Melissa, you just got officially ordained or accredited as a chaplain. Is that correct?
The correct word is licensed.
You got licensed. I thank you for giving me the right word. You got licensed as a chaplain, and I know you're continuing in your studies. But I was so excited to hear about your chaplaincy that I said, hey, would you like to take a piece of this service as an official chaplain and work with this group some on a topic? And you said yes, and I was thrilled to have you do so. And so I'm going to spotlight you and I'm going to ask you to take us on a little bit of a journey, which is somewhat related to what we're talking about here today. And so go right ahead, Melissa.
Well, hello, everyone. I want to say I'm on a phone and I can't see people. I can't see like everybody's hands up. So if you have your hand up, just speak up because I won't be able to see you if you have a comment. And when I told Rabbi I got my license, he's like, "Do you want to share something?" I said, "Well, that's not what I meant, but yes, you can stretch me a little bit." Um, the section that I'm going to share today is out of this book. It's called Chaplaincy, a Ministry of Presence, and it's written by Matt Sanders, and it's in the section on being present to yourself. And the word, he spells it this way. It's saying hello to your stuff. So I'm going to read part of a paragraph out of this book, and I asked Rabbi kindly to make a slide. Do you have that ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So one of my favorite words to promote emotional and mental self-care is hello. I have discovered the value of simply saying hello to the challenging circumstances of life, saying hello to the heavy and difficult emotions that arise, and saying hello to difficult thoughts and memories. So it's saying, hello, anger, I see you. Hello, difficult, sticky, heavy situation. Hello, impatience. I'm going to go on. By saying hello, I simply mean approaching difficulties with an attitude of distance and acceptance rather than aversion or clinging. This is an attitude of awareness rather than avoidance. It's an attitude of befriending rather than fearing or resisting or resenting our own inner experience. And so I have an example of this in my own life. Just this week, one of my hens, and I asked Rabbi, I sent Rabbi a picture of my hen so I could show it to you. One of my hens she's really, really old, and her leg was injured, and she's been limping around, and the other hens have been picking on her, and most of my livestock I see as most of the chickens I see as livestock. I give them names like Taco and Fajita. But this one was my friend. I mean, this one was my pet, and I was going to let her get as old as she wanted. And I'd come in the coop, and she'd follow me around. And, she was just very, very much like my good friend. And so I had to put her down this week. And now when I go into my coop, because I've had her for 8 years, I'm like, I walk in my coop and I go, hello, sadness, that my friend isn't here to greet me. And hello, empty spot where she used to be. And then I also take some distance and say, hello, gratitude for all of the eggs she gave me and all the joy she gave me. She was more of a cat, So anyway, so I have the list in the reading. And we have 2 columns. We have distance and acceptance versus clinging and aversion, awareness versus avoidance, and befriending versus resisting, resenting, and fearing our own inner experience. And so the question I have is, how do we move when we have these feelings of clinging or avoidance, or just not wanting to deal with our emotions, not wanting to deal with our difficult situation? How do we move from going over here to working in acceptance and, taking a step back? So how do we move from here to here?
Is that a question you want us to answer?
Yes, that is the question.
Is
Let go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's how do we move from clinging, fear, and avoidance, aversion,
Yes.
to distance,
Let go.
acceptance, befriending, and awareness. So we
Be
got
here now.
Step back and look at what is happening.
Desire is the most important.
wanting to do it.
Yes.
And I also heard the idea that Ron was just saying about pausing, taking a pause.
Holding that, holding it close to us. The experience that painful experience, just holding it rather than trying to push it away.
Yeah, so befriending.
If you're called a chaplain, doesn't it mean that you have some sort of a relationship to a transcendent force? Can't you turn towards that and say, this is very hard for me? Please help me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Turning it over.
Absolutely.
I think of looking to the future and avoiding the regret that you might feel in the future by doing that. You're giving a gift to your future self.
Until we recognize that most of humanity, including us, are always in a fight or flee mode. And be able to be aware of that and go into silence.
To be aware of that, be aware of that instinct to fight or flight, and then which is like the center part of your brain, and move to the higher part, the upper part. Yeah.
Melissa, because you were running this, I got to see that there was a comment on Facebook, and the comment from our friend Spring Phoenix said, "Go outside."
Yeah.
That's a good answer. One of the things that I was thinking is just the word practice, and like practicing to the actually in the book he used the word detachment. And I liked, I did change, sorry, Matt Sanders, but I did change your verbiage a little bit. I put in distance instead of attachment, the taking a step back. And so the other question I have for all of you is, can you think of any examples in your own life and in your own experiences, and how either you have done these things or you could see how this would be helpful? And this is really about our own inner experience.
So, Melissa, I think I'm going to continue according to the plan that we had, was to ask people to go into small groups at this point, and to
we talked about breaking out into small groups right now.
Say that again, Melissa.
We had discussed that now would be a good time to break out into small groups.
Yeah.
Well, what is under distance in your? Could you hold up your cardboard thing again?
Of course.
You have distance and accept. Oh, and acceptance. That these seem like opposite.
Melissa, can you say something about that? The distance versus acceptance.
Is this versus?
Well, no, but it's distance and acceptance versus aversion and clinging.
So distance
versus.
Yeah, distance from the problem, distance from the emotion.
Versus befriended versus awareness. So you have befriending. Befriending. It was backwards. The awareness, and avoidance. Okay. I'm a little confused. Okay. Awareness, avoidance, befriending.
So here's
aversion. I think you got it. I think you got mixed up on Brian's thing.
I just
put perfecting aversion and awareness, avoidance, right? Okay.
I put them.
Yeah.
You got it mixed up.
I swapped awareness and befriending on my list.
Oh, that's okay.
It's okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Good to have. Thank you.
So the question to go into the small groups with is, think of a thing in your life, and our little chicken friend is an example think of a thing in your life where you had an emotional reaction and you had the choice. Well, it might not have felt like a choice, but think of a thing in your life where you've had an emotional reaction to which you clung, you kept yourself in that issue, as opposed to detaching yourself from it and possibly even saying, well, hello, awkward feeling. Interesting that I should find you here. And so we're going to go into small groups of 5 people. We'll take 5 minutes to do so. And if you haven't been with us while we do that, you're going to get a little thing on your screen. It's going to say, you're welcome to join a small group. And then we will come back. And for everyone in the small group to take a moment to share with each other some issue that they've had on this clinging versus distance, the acceptance versus fearing, avoidance, befriending, awareness, aversion, or a time when you were able to just look at your emotional thing and say hello, or a time that you wish you could have done that. Are our small rooms open on the... There we go.
Yes.
There we go. So we'll be back in 5 minutes' time. And this is when I say, if you are not in a small group, to you I say, hello! And I'm glad that you're here. You might be on Facebook or YouTube, and so you didn't get the option to join a small group. If you're on a cell phone, I believe you automatically got put into a small group, so there's not... so you wouldn't be hearing me say this right now. And you might not have wanted to join a small group because you really like to be broadcast to all the people on Facebook and YouTube, or for whatever other reason, you're still here with me. So I say, hello. I'm glad that you're here. I see Sari and Afia and Roberta and Ray and Jack and Alex. Alex, who can't leave the helm, because the ship will go down.
Well, I'm sorry, Rabbi. I won't be with you next weekend.
You thank you for the heads up. I appreciate that. So
I will be on staycation.
Good for you. Good for you. So anyone who is here, I'm gonna make this so I can share you guys with anyone who's watching. Oh, that made me lose me, but I promise I'm still here. So of the people who are here, do you have an example of a moment where you had this? Oh, there I am. Here, I'm going to put myself in this box right there. Oh, it's going to move around a little bit, but that's okay. Oh, Meg, you made it back home.
Yes.
Well,
We were. Rich went off to play baseball.
Good stuff.
So I wasn't talking to a drive-in person. I was talking to somebody that had played baseball. But thank you all for your patience. And I never mind being an example of something not to do.
Well, no. You perfectly gave us an example of discernment versus judgment, and that something happened, and the timing was just perfect. So, anything, Jack or Ray, that you want to share about a moment where you had the forethought to say hello to your emotion and to not just follow the train, but actually to make a choice? Or Meg, you as well.
I appreciated the lesson because I think that's a good idea to take the time to say a good long hello. Maybe it'll keep me from bouncing back with what I'm really thinking.
It reminds me of the song, the Simon and Garfunkel song, "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend." But I had never considered the song that... I had never considered it as a... I always thought of it as like he was tumbling down into the depths of this was a bad thing. I never thought of it as him befriending the darkness and saying, well, hello, darkness, my old friend, come to see you again. That oh, here I am again, without that. There's a delightful lack of judgment in it.
Yeah, there is.
Ray, you got any thoughts in there? You can pass. No thoughts in there. That's fine. Jack?
Well,
or Marge, because I know Marge is there listening in as well.
Okay. There's a couple of things. It seems to be a seesaw in a relationship, and we both inadvertently welcome the interaction when it gets a little hectic. Like she'll express in loud words to me, and I'll react in more or less the same way, but we forget it immediately. And there's another, and I'm okay with that, and she's okay with that. It's for us, it's rubbing off. It's rubbing off, and it's going to continue as long as we're alive. The other thing is, sometime, and I don't know if I repeated, I'm repeating myself, but about sometime last year, when I was out playing some golf, one of the gentlemen in a group before us, we were approaching the green, and the next thing I know, this guy has run over in his cart, gets out of the cart, and goes right up to me and starts berating the hell out of me, calling me all sorts of names and everything else. And when he was finished, and there was 4 or 5 other people around, I just said thank you.
Good for you. That's a hard thing to do. Good job,
yeah,
Jack.
Right. And I ended up with 5 new friends.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thank God that I was able to do that.
Yeah.
Because ordinarily, if that was my life before, we'd be wrestling on the ground.
Well, I'm glad to know that you've aged and grown.
Yeah.
Lord.
Alex, it looks like we're back. People are back from the.
Yeah, so, groups just ended.
Thank you guys for sharing with each other. I'm wondering, is there a particular piece of wisdom of something that came out of your group that, not necessarily something that you shared, but to share a piece of high level wisdom that came out, or something that would be useful for other people to hear? Keeping other people's and your own anonymity is perfectly acceptable. Is there something that came out of your group that you want to share? Taking a look at all the people who are here.
I'll share one thing.
Yeah, Michael, and then Jordan. Thank you.
The one thing is simply the idea of time, that was valuable to be able to get together, and we could use more time. So time is important too, to give ourselves time, take time.
Yeah. Jordan, what do you say?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I was in a nice group, and we were talking about how to have distance and acceptance at the same time, and how that was kind of paradoxical. And Rags said something very helpful about the concept of having open palms, right? You're something's coming to you, but you're not clutching at it. You're accepting it with a little distance. I found that wise.
Yeah, to see there's some phrase about like a loose garment. I can't remember that phrase, but there's some. To wear life like a loose garment, not getting too stuck and attached to it. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Rags. John.
We have a little bit of a residual thing. It's not direct. It's close to being on topic. In the chart that was held up, okay, to avoid, I'm really concerned about being pedantic, but the arching word at the top, verses.
Yeah.
It would be better if the last vowel was a U rather than another E. And I say that because, not trying to be a smart ass, but
what do you mean by that? Slow down. I don't understand. I don't understand you.
So often, thank you, Michael. Thank you for asking. Let me help out.
Yeah.
Often verses verses is the verses of a song as opposed to versus, which is opposed to. And bring us to your point, John.
No, I raise it because if she was going to use it, that same sign with other people, some people might react. I didn't react. All I'm saying is,
but you did.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do is say, I'm not reacting pedantically. It's not just because I was a teacher and I know how to spell and all that kind of stuff.
Let's use this as an example.
Yeah,
right?
please.
Here is a thing, and how attached to it must we be that the spelling is this way or that way? And how attached or how loose can we be of this is all fun. I thank you for bringing it up, John. I thank you for helping us with an example in the here and now. Candace, you have your hand up. First time caller. Go ahead.
First time caller. One of our group members said something that he talked about free will and then won't will. And the term won't will gave me pause. I haven't had time to really formulate that, but won't will indicates that, to me, the gut feeling is like taking a pause, maybe thinking, I won't do that right now or whatever. But it was just a very different form of the expression that I've never heard before.
Yeah, and it's the making a choice. It's how do we make a choice? How do we have a free? Can we find the freedom? And this to me, this is the question that it's my koan for right now is, do I not have the ability at every moment to choose peace? And the answer is no, not at every moment, because there are emotional reactions. Somebody comes and scares me, I'm going to scream. I don't have a choice in that one. It's like trying to not close your eyes when you have to sneeze. There are some things that are just instinctual responsive. But somebody comes up and tries to berate me. Notice I said tries. Somebody tries to berate me. I do have a choice on how I react. Now, it's going to take a lot of practice to be able to do that, but I know it's possible. And I got a postcard from our friend James, who's in prison, and somebody stole his binders right before he was about to teach a class. And he wrote to me about how he's, I can't, here. Let me share this screen with you. He said, there's still more work to be done, more ignorance to ignore, more haters to find, more reasons to love. It was easier being a gangbanger, but it wasn't right. Sometimes the most difficult things to do are the right things. That, folks, I don't know how to say this without it sounding obnoxious. So if I put a preamble on it, maybe it will sound less obnoxious. If James can figure out how to have a mature reaction, and he's in the shittiest of all circumstances, I'll leave it there. We have some people to be asked some prayers for. Maria, would you help us out with a little bit of... before we do that, I don't want to take one more moment without thanking Melissa. Melissa,
absolutely, yes.
Melissa,
absolutely.
That is bravery, and so thank you so much for being brave and helping us to think on this.
And gracious. He was so gracious.
Yeah, that's great.
So thank you. Maria, would you bring us through to prayer time, and we'll add a little extra prayer for your newly deceased chicken?
Yes.
These are the names of people to lift up and send positive energy to this week.
Oh, so that's, you said people, so I got to get rid of the chicken then.
Well, that's an interesting problem for next week.
That was. Go ahead, Melissa.
Alex, Francis, Maria, Shmuley and Maggie, cousin Amy, Bill and Karen, Dave, Alyssa, and Rob B. If there is another person in our community we can offer light and love to, please put their name in the chat and I will add them to the list in the new clubhouse. And for the people who aren't named but who are in our thoughts, we send them light and love as well.
And let's take a minute of time starting now. Well, thank you for the moments of light and love. Okay. I have a few announcements. First, I want to thank Ron and Alex and Meg and Joe and Maria and Afia for helping throughout the service and then helping me in reviewing and then helping me to prepare. I could not. I need you to be satisfied with the thanks that I give you because I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate all the help. This announcement, as always, it is okay not to feel okay, and it's not okay, and it's also, as it was originally written, it's okay not to be okay. We all have hard times. And often when we're having a hard time, it doesn't feel like that hard time's ever going to end. And that's okay. And it's okay to have a hard time, and it's okay to say hello to the hard time. In our little small group in Breakout, we realized the wisdom of the Simon and Garfunkel song where it says, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." And that maybe it's not a depressive thing, but it's like, oh, look at that. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Other announcements. We had I loved, I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe it was a week ago, after the service, when we stopped the recording, Alex is left as host of the meeting because I'm in my own little small group. And I loved that, Alex, that you felt empowered to start up a little discussion, a different unsanctioned discussion group. It's totally sanctioned. It's your group when I'm not here. So I thank you for doing that. And I thank all of you and the facilitators, the people who run the breakout rooms after services. I'm so thrilled that you do that. And so thank you guys for facilitating those. So thank you to Al, who's usually running the deep dive, and Ron and Joe and Meg, who's also doing deep dive. Uh-oh.
What happened?
Alex?
I see what happened. Someone is sharing their screen.
Thank you, Alex.
And I
hold on.
I stopped it.
And this is another good example of, hey, look, a thing happened and we had a reaction to it. A thing happened and we had a reaction to it. And the question is, how well are we able to do that with a sense of peace and calm? Which brings me to review from last week. We talked about anger last week. And we said that anger is perfectly acceptable, sometimes warranted, but anger, when done properly, according to Aristotle, should be done with 4 things in mind. Can you remember what those were?
Right time, right amount.
Okay, wait. Slow down. We're going to do them slowly.
Right person.
We can be angry, but we should try to make sure that we're getting angry at the right person. That's really important. Sometimes the person who we don't want, sometimes the right person to be angry with is ourselves. And we want to take that out on someone else. Sometimes it's easiest to take the anger out on the person we are nearest and dearest to because we know they'll forgive us. That's not a great idea. So to be angry at the right person. The second thing we want to do when we're being angry is to make sure we're being angry
for the right reason.
The right reason. I'm going to put reason there. And I heard somebody else say the right time. So those are both. And there was one other quality to anger, that anger done
Quantity.
right. Yeah, it should be in the right amount, the right quantity, that it should be fitting for what the crime was. And this is also all internal as well as external, that we should be mad at ourselves. If we're mad at ourselves for something that we have done, we should do that, but not to overly berate ourselves when we need not do such a thing. I have some other notes that I talk a lot about the children in my life and the dishwasher. And I want to thank you for bearing with me talking about those things. I especially, you know what I really liked last week was I talked about some issue that I had with my daughter. And you know what I really liked? So maybe a month ago, I talked about an issue that I was having with my son in the dishwasher, but I wasn't talking about my son in the dishwasher. I was talking about how I get attached to an idea of how something should be done, and when he doesn't do the thing that I think he should be doing, that I get angry. A month ago when I talked about that, I got all the solutions for how I should treat my son and what I should do to parent. And I had to do a little bit of an explanation of I wasn't asking for practical advice I wasn't asking for how to solve the problem of getting my son to load the dishwasher. I was asking for advice about how do I not get attached to my outcomes. And we cleared that up in talking a little bit about unsolicited advice. What I loved very much last week was I talked about some issue with my daughter, and I didn't get any unsolicited advice from any of you of better ways that I should be parenting. So it's sometimes hard to notice an absence. It's easier to notice when somebody does something wrong, and it's harder to notice when the thing goes right. So I wanted to thank you guys for not correcting me on how to parent, but for taking my example of my daughter in the manner in which it was served up, which was life gets frustrating, and it often gets more frustrating the closer you are to the person. Okay. I just lost my train of thought, and I'm so glad Emily has something to say. Go ahead, Emily.
I just wanted to mention, when I was in my small group, that was exactly what I did. When the person shared, the frustration, I immediately clicked into problem solving rather than say, ask the person if they wanted suggestions.
And
I just immediately wanted to solve the problem.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking it from you, Emily, that this is an apology that you're making.
Yes.
Was it not? It sounded like taking responsibility for your own actions.
Okay.
Well, help me to understand it, because that's how I was understanding what you were saying. So help me to understand what you meant then.
Yes, it was that's not what it's not helpful for me to immediately click into solving the person's problem.
Yeah.
By giving a suggestion.
You noticed you did a thing, and then you made a decision to do something different. You noticed what you had done. That's fantastic. Yeah. Good. Okay. I want to tell a story, and this is I'm in graduate school for education, right? I finished working as a rabbi at a congregation, and I start teaching math full time, and I'm taking courses at Pepperdine University in education. And I have a professor there, Dr. Kathy Church, and she is the most gifted educator I have ever met. And she taught us not by telling us things, but by showing us things, making us come to learn them for ourselves. And there's one day, and she hands us each she hands a stack of paper, and we each take one, and we're to keep them face down on the table. And it's a small cohort, maybe there are 13, 14 of us. And we know each other pretty well by this point. And she says, okay, turn the paper over, and it's a worksheet, and we've all had these. It's got bunches of paragraphs, and then at the bottom there's, the number 1 and a fill in the blank, and a number 2 fill in the blank, and there's some questions at the bottom of it. And when we turn it over, she says, go ahead and start working on that worksheet. Okay. It's in German. I don't speak German, and I definitely don't read German. I can't make sense of it. So I say, sorry, Dr. Church, I'm sure you are aware, but no sprechen de Deutsch. Like, I can't do this worksheet. And she says, try harder. I say, that's not going to help. I can't try harder. I don't speak German. She says, well, just try harder. Put some effort into it. I'm sure you're ahead of me on this story.
Yeah.
I give this as a thought for us all to hold on to this week. Is we often look at other people and we think, well, they should try harder. I wish they'd try harder. If they only tried harder. But often they don't speak German.
Mm-hmm.
Show of hands, and timid is fine. How many of you recognize within yourselves that you might be guilty of asking other people to try harder? Keep your hands up if you're willing to try harder at not doing that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and I'm enjoying my Facebook feed. I got somebody raising their hand on Facebook too. So good. I'm going to end it with a thought that goes like this. I have named the quality within myself NIV. NIV is my negative internalized voice.
Mm-hmm.
NIV often tells me, try harder. The negative internalized voice is not very compassionate. My negative internalized voice is really good at just bringing me down and making me feel stupid. I'm going to ask us to say, hello, negative internalized voice. Hello.
Hello, negative internalized voice.
Anyone else want to try that?
Negative internalized
voice.
And there is a 14-year-old in this house who taught me this lesson in the best and most obnoxious of ways when I told her, Annie, you need to clean your room. You might remember me telling you this story. I said, Annie, you need to clean your room. And she says, oh, Dad, you silly goose. We know that's not true. There was something about the way that she said it with such lightness, with such openness, in the same way that I think Melissa was trying to get us to say hello to our negative internalized voice. What is a negative internalized voice going to say if you come up to it and you say, hello? Let's try it. Let's try it next week. Let's try it. Folks, I'm gonna stop the recording, but not until you all get a chance to wave to all the people who are watching. Wave to all the people who are watching.